Welcome back after the long break of Sukkot and Isru Chag. Apologies for not being here yesterday. Ben Azmanim, whatever. We don't have Ben Azmanim. It's Ben Azmanim and we're learning in Beis Tzvi, yeah. Shor She Nogach. We're in the new Mishnah, new perek, a new exciting Zman. Before we start, the Shias Lil Nishmas Rabi Meir Menachem Ben Akiva, Lil Nishmas Kenosti Liebe Malka Bas Mordechai. Pulofuas Yudis Bas Rivka Golda Gil Bas Shifra Shol Ben Ozno Besoch Shachol Yisrael. Let's remind you people, let's remind myself that in the previous perek we had a machloikes between Rabi Akiva and Rabi Shimon. There were a few machloikes, major machloikes about the essence, the character of shotam, the payment of shotam. How does shotam work? According to the Torah says that the mazik and the nizak, the damager and the damagee, they both have to share the value of the shotam. The shotam gored someone, okay, gored a different shore. Let's say it was 200 versus 200, and therefore now he owes 100. The owner of the shotam owes 100. Now, in the shotam, there's like a partnership, the chotzu sachar, they have to split the value of the shotam, the live one, okay? The question is, how does that work? According to Rabi Shimon, okay, according to Rabi Shimon, thank you. According to Rabi Shimon, we're starting the fourth perek now. Yeah, thank you. Fourth perek. We are talking now about Rabi Akiva versus Rabi Shimon. Rabi Akiva said that the Rabi Shimon, let's start with Rabi Shimon. Rabi Shimon is not la'alocha. But we say Rabi Shimon says what? You just owe him money. If you're the mazik, you owe money to the nizak. That's it. The preferred way of payment is the Torah's preferred way, and it's viewed as an apoitiki, which I assume you know what that means, yeah? The mortgage part within the assets of the mazik is a shore. The shore is like meshubed to the nizak, but he's not a partner in it. He doesn't really own part of the shore hamazik, the bull, the goring bull. The nizak is not a partner there. B'shenken Rabi Akiva says no. Rabi Akiva says something else. Rabi Akiva says there are partners, not partners in crime, but partners in the show. Why the partners in the show? Because that's how we've used the psukim. Yeah, excuse me for a second. Yeah. Now, okay. Now let's go. Says Rabbi Akiva, there are partners, which means what? Which means you are a legal partner in the show. If the show is going to be worth more, you're going to be getting more. If it'll be worth less, you'll be getting less, according to Rabbi Akiva. Okay, that's the difference between Rabbi Shimon. Or if you're makdish, let's say the person sold it, right? According to Rabbi Shimon, if he can sell it, but it's meshubed. According to Rabbi Akiva, cannot sell it bichlal. You can't sell something without the permission of your partner. Remember that? That was Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon. Machlokes Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon is not exactly recurring today, but the next sugya has to do with their machlokes. It's strongly connected to their machlokes. Now let's start saying the story, and I'm sorry the people who don't see us here in the Beit Medrash will not be able to see the chart, but whatever, we'll manage with that. One show gored 4 or 5 bulls, one after the other. That's a naughty boy. There's one person called Reuven. He has a show, and his show is the only one in the story here in the Mishnah. They gored 4 or 5 bulls, one after the other, and he still remained tam, by the way. Even though he gored 4 or 5 times, he still remained a tam. Yeah, how could that be? How is it possible? Well, Rashi says different explanations. Rashi says there was no pattern. We're going to see in this perek, Mr. Hashem, we're going to learn later on more about tam and muad. A tam only becomes muad if he gored 3 times in a row, or he gored once and then every other time he gored, yeah, and every other time he resisted, he was kovish's yetzer. Then there's a pattern. But let's say a show gored once and then didn't gore once. He saw another bull and he didn't do anything, didn't react badly, and then he saw 2 of them, and he gored. In other words, there's no pattern whatsoever. If there's no mathematical pattern to his goring, then even though he gored 3 times, we say that he's still a tam, because many other times he didn't gore. He gores every once in a while, randomly, without having any pattern at all. Yeah, and that can happen. Then he's not considered a short time, because there are many, many times against the times that he gores, the times that he doesn't gore. Okay, so therefore we say that he still theoretically can remain a short time. So let's say he gored 4 different shvorim, bulls, one after the other in different times with no pattern. Once on Sunday, then the following Monday, then the following Thursday. He gored one after the other. And this show is only worth 200. That's limited sources. You tell me, if a show tam gored and he's worth 200, how much can be paid in maximum? 100, that's it. What happens if the show is worth 150? How much would you get? What? No. The live shore. You'll still get 100. You get 100, but you can't get more than that. If the show is worth less, let's say the show is only worth 50, how much would you get? The goring shore is worth 50, you'll get 50. Then everyone agrees you only get paid from the body of the show. Okay, so therefore, this is classical case of musical chairs. You have Reuven's show, he's the only bad one here. That's the violent one. And he gored Shimon's and Levi's and then Yehuda's. He's only worth 200. And they are worth 200 each. So he owes 100 to him, then another 100 to him, then another 100 to him. You tell me, logically speaking, before we open the Mishnah, before we start the Mishnah, who's going to eat first? Who's going to sit on the chair first? Who's going to get the money? The one gored on Sunday or the one gored next Monday or next Tuesday or the following Thursday or on Purim? The first one, the Sunday. And now we're going to see, surprisingly, the Mishnah is going to surprise us. There's going to be a machloikes and nobody's going to say like you said. And the Gemara is going to explain why. There are going to be 2 opinions in the Mishnah. None of them seems to be saying against the regular logic of people, what you were saying. What you're saying is logical, but it's not what the Mishnah is about to say. Let's go. He gored 4 or 5 bulls, one after the other. Wow. He pays the last one. The last one. Let's say the last one is called Yehudi. Yehuda is the last one. Reuven, the bully, he pays only Yehuda. He pays his worth of 100 out of 2, and everybody else stands there with the empty pockets and empty hands. And if you have your eyebrows raised, the Gemara will ask the same question. How come? But we're going to see very, very logical reason for that. The im yesh bo moiso. If, let's say, there's an extra left, let's say it's not 200. In other words, let's say Yehuda's shore was worth 200, he's owed how much? 100, and therefore Reuven the Mazik paid him 100 from the body of his bull. But you know what? His bull is not worth 200. The bull of Reuven is worth 300. So there's just more resources. There's more place to take the cash from. Therefore, who's going to get the next one? Levi. The one, not the last one, but the penultimate one. In other words, we start working from the end against everything we've learned all our lives, and against logic. It's not first served. The last one comes, the last one served. And the one, if there's any extra money, the one before the last, he's going to get it. And you may ask the question why, and it's a good question. We're going to see a good answer. And if there is more extra, you get the one before the penultimate. Yeah, the one whatever. Levi, yeah, the one before, not Levi, Shimon, yeah, Yehuda, then whatever, Bekitzer, it always goes the last and the one before the last, the one before the last. The ha'achron niskal. The more last you are, so to speak, the later you come into the show, into the scene, niskal, you get more, you get the sachar, you get the compensation. Divrei Rabi Meir, yeah. Why is a good question. Rabi Shimon says differently. Rabi Shimon, I'll tell you already now the secret. Rabi Shimon follows the opinion of Rabi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon follows the opinion of Rabi Akiva. You tell me now, let's stop again. I like the interactivity here, the interaction with you people. Yes, so nice. I missed you so all over Sukkot, really. Rabbi Shimon Omer like this. Rabbi Shimon says, you tell me now, think again. According to Rabbi Akiva, think again and change your answer possibly. What did I tell you a minute ago about Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva says, the once Reuven gored Shimon's show, Shimon becomes a partner in Reuven's bull, right? It's not stam that the shore is a source to pay from. It's not a kitty. It's not a diamond mine to take your resources from, as they say, milking cow in Hebrew, they say, yeah? It's really part and parcel of the nechosim of Shimon. Shimon, the damaged, is a partner now in Reuven's show. You tell me now, Reuven gored Shimon, okay? Reuven's shore gored Shimon's shore, okay? And both were 200. Now, Reuven and Shimon are partners in Reuven's pool. Reuven owns 100, and Shimon owns 100 too. What happens now when Reuven's bull gored Levi? That's the next person in line. Do we need a chart? So far, I think we're okay, no? It's very clear. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. We just read the brachas 2 days ago. So now you tell me, people, think again about what you said before. If Reuven and Shimon are now partners in the bull, in Reuven's bull, and now he went and he gored Levi, yeah, a second damagee, then how much should be paid and from whose pocket?
50 from Reuven.
We just started and Ellen's star is already shining. Really, Reuven and Shimon both owe 50 to Levi, right? Of course, and that's exactly what Gemara is going to say, because we follow Rabi Akiva, these are all partners. And what happens if Reuven, Shimon, and Levi's shore, Chad Gadia, now the he gores Yehuda's, what happens then? 50 and 25 each. Very good. Let's read the Mishnah. You guys are amazing. I love you all. Rabi Shimon Oimer comes the second opinion of Rabi Shimon following Rabi Akiva. Rabi Shimon Oimer shosh v'mosayim. Shenogach l'shosh v'mosayim. A shor worth 200, the gored another one worth 200. The V'ena nevela yof klum. The nevela is worth 0. We don't restart the stories about the nevela. So we make it very simple. He totaled him, as we say. You say it in England too. He totaled the car. He totaled the bull. He's worth 0. He completely, that ripped him apart. How much does he owe him? 100. Zenotel money, zenotel money. So Reuven, the damager, stays with the money, and Shimon now takes the money in the body of the bull. He's the partner of the bull. Half. Money is 100. Chazal benogach show acher. Reuven and Shimon's show is now shared property. He's going a third one, a second one actually. It's really the second time he gores really. Show acher, shvemos time, also worth 200. Ha'acher notel money. The last one gets 100. He says, I don't care where I'm getting it from. I'm getting 100, which you guys said very correctly, 50 from each. The people before him, Reuven and Shimon, each one stay with 50, right? And they each one give 50 to the new guy in the block, to the new damagee. Chaza, by the way, there's no word as damagee. I made it up, yeah? Chaza, I like to make up words in English when I'm in trouble. Chaza v'nogach shor acher shvemosayim. Here's his third goring. Now he gored another one worth 200. Acher notel money. The last one always says, listen, I'm the last one. I'm getting 100. How does 100, what does 100 comprise from? 50 from the last guy and 25 from the previous ones. Because they each one had 50. They each one give half of what they had. The other one had 100, the last one, and now he has to give 50. The previous person, Levi, gets 50 or stays with 50. In the two first ones, Reuven and Shimon, each one stay with a golden dinar. Doesn't mean what they have in Jordan nowadays. The Gemara is going to tell us about the money system. If we have time today and you behave yourselves, which means you don't ask many questions, we'll get to the end of the Amud. The Gemara is going to explain very, very interesting things about the monetary system of olden days. You can have a PhD in the Babylonian currencies. Yeah, and dinar zahav, basically, there are two types of currencies in the times of the Gemara. I don't mean types like Stella and Dina and this. I mean to say two different complete systems. Like you have Canadian dollar and American dollar, yeah, or Australian dollar. So you have Tsuri and you have Medina. You have one made out of gold and you have made out of much cheaper metals like iron. Yeah, so now the two first ones, you get one dinar made out of gold, which in simple language is 25, which is worth 25 zuz. Zuzim are always the same, which means very simple, like you guys were saying yourselves, and you said at the end of the day, the last one gets 100, right? Because he deserves 100. He doesn't care who from. The one before him stays with 50. Because he was a partner in 100, he has to get 50 of what he had. And the first ones, Reuven and Shimon, each one originally had 50. Each one have to part, sadly, from 25, which is half, and stay with 25. Basically, shareholders, for good or for bad, yeah, how much percentage you have affects your status in the company, and that's exactly what's happening over here. So they stay with a golden dinar, which is just a synonym for 25 zuz. Makes sense, 50. There's 100, 150, and 25 each. And that's about it. And that is how Rabbi Akiva would agree to the sugya. So at least one opinion out of two we understand. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Meir seems to be very strange, very hard to understand why only the last one gets, and I promise you will explain it. B'lei soon. And Rabbi Shimon makes sense if he follows Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva says no. Once you're a partner, it's good because you know you're the partner in it. On the other end, you partner for good and for bad. Right? If the company is in trouble and you're a big shareholder, you're in trouble too, right? And mainly here also, we say that you always have to pay half of however percentage you have to the next damagee. So by the way, both Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir, at the end of the day, the last guy is the one who gets the most, right? According to Rabbi Meir, the one who gets the most and the only one who gets is what is the last guy. And the first one remains with a half, and the one who gets his half that he deserves only the last one. According to Rabbi Shimon, the last one gets his entire half, and the other ones all lose 50% in ratio to what they own. That's the end of the Mishnah. I promise you, Mirz Hashem, everything will be understood in Mirz Hashem, and now is a good time for questions. Yeah, we're not yet in North Korea, so let's go. No, quick, another question, quickie. Yeah, thank you very much. Who's the Mishnah like? The Rabi Shimon, the Rabi Akiva. The beginning of the Mishnah, which is Rabi Meir, the mysterious Rabi Meir, seems not to follow neither Rabbi Ishmael nor Rabbi Akiva. Doesn't follow anybody, right? Ika Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon would say, like you guys said, according to Rabbi Shimon, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zvulun, I don't care, 4 or 5 people all gored. What are they? They are Balei Choiv. What does it mean Balei Choiv? They are owed money. Nachon? Hi, Achron, Niskar. Last one is the one who gets first. Shomer Shemaim, Sdoim V'Amoiro. Rishon Niskar Miboile. The first one gets first herb. By the way, this is not just simple logic from the kindergarten, from musical chairs. You people learned with me, Baruch Hashem Bava Basra, and we saw about 500 times that if I borrow money and I sold my fields, right? Who gets first? The first one gets first, right? Shibud, yeah. One field was sold when? On Tishrei, then on Cheshvan, then on Kislev. The first field, right? That gets sold first is the one that you take from first, not the second one, right? The Rishon is coming boile. The first one should get first. They're owed the money. They're not partners in the shore, according to Rabbi Shmuel. They're just simple people who owed money. I was owed before you. The last one gets mapitom. Ika Rabi Akiva. Now, if you want to follow Rabbi Akiva, the Omar Torah the Shutfehu, what does that mean, Torah the Shutfei? The shore of the partners. Hi, Yesh B'moiso. It's also difficult. Yachzir l'shelefonov. Then you give it, turn the page, lefonov, you give it to the one before. L'kulami boile. Everyone should be getting it. B'kitzer, we should say like who? Like the second opinion, like Rabbi Shimon. We should say like Rabbi Shimon that everybody should get the extras, like we said, right? You get the last one gets 100. If there's any extra, the one before gets 50, the one before 25, right? They're all partners. Each one gets less and less as we go along. But the first opinion of Rabbi Shimon, of Rabbi Meir, doesn't make sense. L'choira. Amarove. Answers over. Listen to this. Here comes the answer, people. Are you excited? Really, the first opinion is Rabbi Shmuel. The first opinion follows Rabbi Shmuel. The Balei they're not partners. They're just owed money from the bull. The kashalach. You ask the question, why should the last one get first? The first one should get first, yeah? And then whatever remains should go to the second one. Excuse me. What's the story over here? We're making Nukimta, we're qualifying the Mishnah. Listen to this. The case over here is as follows. Mr. Demji, meaning Shimon, then Levi, then Yehuda, whoever is the damaged one, they're only owed the money, but they're scared. They're scared that you're going to get your bull and you're going to be mavriach the bull. What does mavriach mean? You'll hide it. You'll make it to run away somewhere. Yeah, you'll sort of, hide it, conceal your shore, so nobody bichlal should be able to collect. They catch the bull. They take the bull and physically take it to their possession in order to make sure that their only source of collection, which they prefer as a shore, and the Torah says should be the shore, they want to secure their source of paying the debt from. Yeah, the source of the debt payment should be in their hands. That's what they feel, and that's what they do. And therefore what? Listen to this. V'nasa, look at the Gemara, not at me. V'nasa olav kishomer sachar l'nizokin. Wow, which means they all become a shomer sachar. What does shomer sachar have to do with the price of cheese? Slowly. Explains Rashi beautifully. Shomer sachar, my friend, you know what shomer sachar is. I'm not going to translate it because I don't insult you. Yeah. Shomer sachar is not only... Thank you. Shomer sachar is not only if you get paid money. I'll ask you a question. Let's say B'cham can ask an asking at the door, and he tells you, "Can you please look after a sefer for me?" And all the newspapers and all the media, and you become such a celebrity because B'cham Kanievsky came to your house and asked you to look after a sefer for him. And it's a big thing. It's a very rare sefer, unbelievable manuscript, not normal. Yeah. So, are you shomer sachar or shomer chinam? It's not so simple. He doesn't give you money, but you can claim that shomer sachar. You get a lot of glory from that. You got a lot of honor. You get a lot of money from the newspaper. It's going to pay you money for the interview. In other words, sachar is not always cash. There's a lot of other ways to pay people besides actual cash. The people who are holding the shore that they're owed from, they're not partners. This is not Rabi Akiva. This is Rabi Shimon. They're not partners. Elamai, the fact that, let's take the first guy, Shimon, the first damagee. Shimon holds the show, and he's very happy, financially speaking, not stam covered. He's very happy. What is he happy about? Knowing that the show is in his hands, and that's his source to be paid from. It's not going to run away. And therefore, he's called shomer sachar. Now, so what if the shomer sachar? Continues the Gemara, one tiny word at the beginning of the line, lenizokin. We learned that before. A kid asked me that question a long time ago, and that's the answer. We saw it in the previous prokim. I'll ask you a question. When you're shomer sachar, and the animal that you have to look after, and you have to make sure that this animal doesn't get damaged, what happened if the animal damaged others? Your neighbor left you a bunch of rats to look after. That's his pet. Yeah, a whole cage full of rats because he's going to New York to his parents. So you have to make sure the rats are well fed and they watch nice movies, whatever. You make sure that everything is good. What happened if the rat went and bit someone? Are you chayev? Yes, very good. You remember. The answer is unless you specified otherwise, the shomer is not only responsible for nothing bad should be done to the object, also nothing bad should be happening through the object, by the animal. And therefore, that's a story over here. They become a chroi. That's a story. Listen to this. Listen to the unbelievable thing. Here again, episode number 2 in the theater show. Reuven is the owner, yeah? Reuven is the owner. Once Shimon caught his shore, in order to make sure that the shore is really, really stays here and you don't do anything funny with your shore, don't make it run away to America, Shimon is not the owner, but he's the sole, one and only responsible person on the entire shore. Get it? Why? He's even responsible for Reuven's part, because he wants the entire shore to be there in order to be able to collect from the shore. So when he wants to, he'll be able to either opt out or maybe shech the shore and get half the meat. He wants meat. He likes barbecues, okay? He likes bar. Yeah, and therefore, when Shimon holds the shore of Reuven, it's exclusively owned by Reuven, but exclusive responsibilities of Shimon. Therefore, when this shore goes again and gores Levi, the only one responsible is Shimon. Now, Levi's owed how much, my friends? I hope you know the number. 200 divided to 2 is 100. Ooh, yeah. So Levi is owed 100. Who has to give him the 100? Mr. Simeon has to give him 100 because he's the only person responsible over here because he's holding it like a shomer sachar. Just like if you went to visit your parents in New York and you left your rat with your neighbor and the rat bit someone, the neighbor is chayiv and not you because he's responsible because he keeps living in Achal Dolev. Mimela, what? The only one chayiv is Shimon. Therefore, my friend, Reuven stays with 100. Reuven stays with 100. That never changes. But the 100 owed to Shimon elegantly and smoothly moves now to Levi, because he's the only one responsible. Now the Chad Gadi continues. Levi, stupidly or smartly, does the same. And he also holds him to the shore because he wants to make sure that this shore stays here. And therefore he assumes full responsibility. And then what? Levi is the only one chayiv. The only one chayiv? Okay. Then when he gores Yehuda, then Yehuda gets the 100 from Levi. That's not musical chairs. That's a different kindergarten game called pass the parcel. The 100 goes from one to the other, the pass the buck to the 100. Until Yehuda, hopefully by Yehuda, the story ends. And let's say Yehuda stays with the 100 because the shore never gored after that, and 100 remains by Reuven, of course, because the only one owed is 100. Okay? If there's anything extra left, what happens if there's extra left? We say what? If, let's say, the shore is worth more than 200, let's say the shore is worth 250, so there's 50 extra left, that 50 extra goes to Levi. But that goof is a question why. But now you got your answer to your question. So that very kivyochol, seemingly funny, mysterious way of Rabbi Shimon, of the beginning of the Mishnah, makes a lot of sense to us. Excuse me, Rabi Meir. Why does it make sense to us? It passes from one to the other, because the new guy on the block, the new demiji, the current demiji, is always becoming responsible over it because he's a shomer. He wants to have it there, and b'schar the shmira, he becomes what? He becomes responsible. B'schar that it's there, and now the money goes from one to the other. That's the answer. Frag the Gemara, if so, wait a second. If you tell me that there's, let's say, extra 50, extra 100 left, it goes to the one before. Why? Why should it go to the one before? That's not true. He should really return it to the original owner, right? Because Lamaisa, at the end of the day, it's only between Reuven and Yehuda. There were only shomrim in the middle, and because of shomrim, they lost the rights. Once you're shomer, you lost the right. You only owed 100. That 100 is the only thing you owed. You owed O-W-E-D. You only owed 100, Levi. Well, that 100 goes to him. There's 50 extra left. There's 70 extra left. Of course, you should go to the Bailim. Basically, my shore gored his 100 I'll give him, and the million that's left, the rest, she should stay by Reuven. Why do you say it goes to Levi? Mapitom. Levi's owed 100, and that 100 exactly is what he lost. Finished. Why is he getting any extras? And says the Gemara, that's really what we should learn, and that's it. There's no more hard parts in this Amud. From now on, the Amud is going to be very easy. Moisa ben Ezokov means, let's say his shore was worth, let's say his shore was worth 300. Let's say his shore was worth more. Levi is 300. That's the answer. Cool. Let's say Levi is 300, not 200. We say, of course, if the person before the 100, he has to give him, but the extra stays with him because Levi is also owed by Reuven. Reuven stays with 100. Yehuda 100, and the extra goes to Levi, of course, because Levi is the last one to be to that. He only has to pay what he owes Yehuda, but not more than that. The rest stays by him because really he's owed more. That's it. Very simple. Similarly, Rabbi said on behalf of Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Pshias Shomrin Nogu Bo. Mishum Pshias Shomrin Nogu Bo. In other words, we say that the reason the reason why this entire payment has to take place is why? Because Pshias Shomrin. What's Pshias Shomrin? They're all Shomrin. They're all considered as guards, as custodians, right? And therefore what? And therefore, that's why they have to pay the next piece. They always have to pay the next person. From Reuven to Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, each one gets 100 because he's old, because they're responsible. Frag the Gemara, how did you just explain the Mishnah to me? Rabbi Shmuel, right? You just told me that the Reisha follows Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. If so, Ema Seifa. Well, the second part of the Mishnah, which is Rabbi Shimon, does make sense. Rabbi Shimon, what did Rabbi Shimon say? One show of 200 gored, another one of 200. Then a nevela of a klum. The nevela is worth nothing. He totaled it. Zena telmone, zena telmone. Each one gets 100. True? Good. The joint property of Reuven and Shimon, what happened to it? It gored a second shore, right? Worth 200. Levi gets 100. He doesn't care who from. Really, how does he get it? 50 from each partner. B'shelafonov, the two partners, Reuven the damager and Shimon the first damagee, each one gets 50 zuz. That's basically good chazara on the second part of the Mishnah. Now a third one is being gored, yeah? Now it was Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Gored who? Gored Yehuda. Then Achanoitel Moneh. The third one, the last one always gets 100. I'm over 100. I don't care who from. V'shelafonov. The one before him, Noitel Chamishim Zuz. The one before him, who was the owner of 100, has to pay 50% of what he had, which is 50, half of 100. In the first two, Reuven and Shimon, each one owned 50, and now they have to give 25 each, which is a golden medina, golden and dinar. Also Rabi Akiva. This all seems to suit very nicely with who? Seems to fit very nicely with Rabi Akiva. The shutfihu, because he said what? That's a shore of the shutfim. Frag the Gemara, an interesting question. Reisha Rabi Shmuel of Sefer Rabi Akiva. How can the Reisha of the Mishnah follow Rabbi Shmuel and the Sefer follow Rabbi Akiva? Get the question? How can the Mishnah at the beginning say like one Tana, and the second part of the Mishnah say like another Tana? Shlomo, please tell me why I'm making faces. No, I'm not talking like Kiki Talef teacher, because I also like the faces, yeah? What? Meaning? Even homogenic. But Lamasi, there's a Tutanoim. So why can't we say that each Tana believes like Yilak Rabbi Shimon, like Rabbi Akiva? That was my question. Answers the Shita Mekubetzes. Yeah. Answer. Do you have an answer to that question?
No.
Right. Okay. Very nice. We're in Californian mood again. Okay. So now, Vesteder, the Lamaisa. Okay. So you're allowed to have two opinions. Answers. If these were Amoyroim, then that's the famous question, Lemek Tanoi. Amoyroim, I'm not allowed to repeat Machlokas of Tanoim, but these are also Tanoim. I was so happy when I saw my question last night by the Shita Mekubetzes, one of them for there. He answers very interesting. What did I tell you, my dear friend, my esteemed colleague? You asked Alocha is Laku. I said Rabi Akiva. That's what's bothering the Gemara. The Gemara says, why don't everybody follow Rabi Akiva? Because Alocha is like Rabi Akiva. Why do you say Sefer like Rabi Shmuel, Sefer Rabi Akiva? I would like to say everyone's like Rabi Akiva. And that would work out better that everyone's Rabi Akiva, because that's what halacha is like. Okay? And by the way, Rabi Meir was a Talmud of both Rabi Akiva and Rabi Shmuel. So why is he Kivyochel betting in the wrong horse? Kivyochel. Answers Gemara, Amri in, yes, live with it. Like we said, American style, I'm entitled to my opinion. The Amar Shmuel Rav Yehuda, Shmuel told Rav Yehuda, in Shinana, you, the sharp one, that's a Shmuel always called Rav Yehuda. Shvoik mesnisin, the Tobasroy, leave the Mishnah alone. Don't get stuck on the Mishnah's text. Go after me. Shmuel was like a Tana. The Reisha Rabbi Shmuel, the Sefer Rabbi Akiva. The Reisha follows Rabbi Shmuel, the Sefer follows Rabbi Akiva, and we're absolutely fine with that. In other words, it's a Tana who follows Rabbi Shmuel. We don't follow them la halacha. Okay, we don't follow them la halacha. But him as a Tana, the generation of I cannot pass like Rabbi Shmuel because I live in 2021, almost 22. But Rabi Meir and Rabi Shimon, they could pass him like Rabbi Shmuel because that's what believed was right. Okay, and Mimela, no problem. The Reisha is like Rabbi Shmuel, Sefer like Rabbi Akiva, and we all stay good friends, American style. Beseder? Questions and comments before? No, Beseder? We skip the parentheses. Okay, it's non-wholesome. Oh, now we're going to a whole different.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cool. Non-wholesome. Non-wholesome, we learned over there what's over there? The Gemara is quoting now a Mishnah from perek Choivel. Perek Choivel deals with damages, body damages, physical damages done by one person to the other. Hatoker lechaveroi. Hatoker lechaveroi means either that he blew. Didn't we have a tekiyas shofar recently? A person blows in his friend's ear, and let's say there's no physical damage. It didn't really hurt, his ear that much. Yeah, his eardrum, but it caused him a lot of shame, or it really startled him. Like little kids like to do, to go to the ear, So, or for example, some say that he slapped him on his ear. So it's boishes. He slapped him in the middle of the street without causing physical damage, but it's a big busha. The entire Lachish saw him being slapped by a friend. So Mimele has to pay him how much? How much? Look at that. Noisen loy sela. Says Tankam, he has to give him sela. One sela, by the way, sela is worth a shekel. No, that's not the cute little tiny Israeli coin we have in our pockets. Sela is actually the most expensive currency out of 6 major currencies that we have. Yeah, there's sela. When sela is worth 4 dinar. And then there are 6 others, more actually. But let's talk about sloim and dinorim. What? No, Stella is 4 zuz, and we're going to discuss that. So Tmona is 100 zuz. Stella is worth 4 zuzim. Yeah, Stella is a shekel, and they're worth 4 zuzim, which are dinorim. Okay, 1 Stella is worth 4 zuz / dinar.
It's the first time we're seeing Busha being outlined.
Bush is not so much the issue here. I mean, the issue is about them.
By Busha.
Yeah, Bush is, of course, we have to pay.
It comes to Brazil. On Akan, we didn't know that.
The question is how do you gauge? The whole Mishnah over there talks about, let's say, uncovering a woman's hair in the middle of the street, or slapping, or giving snokeres, hitting him with a donkey's saddle. We touched on it before, by the way. The question is it's very hard to gauge boishes. Is an important person, an unimportant person? That's not the issue right now. The issue now is more about the currencies now. Now, the main focus, the limelight is on the currencies. And we're entering North Korea now because we have 10 minutes and we have the whole Amud to do. He says, no, not 1 sela, which is 4 zuzim. Give him money, which is 100 zuzim. That's quite a difference. Tosfos points out that they're not arguing. They claim that Tosfos wants that whole discussion in the Rishonim depends if the person is a very unimportant person and his boishes is not that great, or a very important person where the boishes is greater. And some say the other way around. But Lamais, at the end of the day, we discuss here paying a lot of money, like 100 zuz, or is it sela, which is only 4 zuzim? But now there's going to be another question coming up soon regarding how, you remember what I told you at the beginning of the share? Do you remember? There are 2 ways of Bichlal looking at the currencies. There's like the Canadian dollar, let's say American dollar versus a Burkina Faso dollar, whatever, I don't know, they pay in dollars, yeah? When you say dollar, what do you mean? The big fancy one or the one that's not worth that much, yeah? Let's see the story. And here really happened in Bavel, one man slapped his friend ear, or he whatever, he like shouted in his ear. Rav Tuvel bar Matna asked the question, sending a letter to Rav Yosef. Where did they live? In which country in the world did they live? In Babylon, yeah, in Iraq. Yeah, now in Babylon, in Bavel, you don't collect knossos. Remember, we don't collect the 4 nezikin, only the basic one. Why is he Bichlal dealing with this case in Bavel? Because this is knas, and knas is not in Bavel, or nezikin is not dealt with in Bavel. The answer is the other person already chapped the money. The other person, the damagee, the one being damaged, already got hold of the money, and he says, I'm turning the tables. In this case, you have to deal with the money, because the other one who slapped him says, no, I don't know him anything, or very little. The question is, how much should stay in his hand? Smart guy. So the question is as follows: Sela Tsuritnan or Sela Medina Tanan? Wow, that's a major, major story over here. When we say in the Mishnah, in the opinion of Tanakama, that he has to give him Sela, what does Sela mean? Yeah, I know Sela is 4 dinar. Yeah, I know. I learned it in sometime in Koilo there. But Sela, the Sela mean in the I don't know the good word, the currency, the type of currency of Tzor. Where's Tzor? You know what Tzor is? In Lebanon. Lebanon today is not a very rich country, to say the least. Tire. Provisional?
Provisional seller.
No, that's Medina. No, that's Medina. No, wait, that's not. Sela Tzuri is a fancy one made out of gold. And Sela, because Tzor, Tire, it's called in English, the city in Lebanon was a very, very rich city. And their currencies were the real deal, like the British pound. Yeah, or Sela Medina. Sela Medina is the one in the street, is the one, not the very fancy one. The difference is 1 to 8. Wow. That's like the pound in the very, very good, very old days. Yeah. 1 Sela Tzuri is worth 8 Sela Medina. Yeah. And also dinar and Sela, both currencies. Yeah. It's a ratio of 1 to 8. You go online, you Google, whatever that is. Yeah. It's always worth 8 more. Okay, 8 times more. That's a big question now. When you say Sela, I'm in Bava, I want to know, what did the Mishnah really mean? Does he have to pay him 4 times Sela, which is 4 Zuzim times 8, or the basic one, which is divided by 8, yeah, the lesser one? What's the story? Omerle, and by the way, okay, Omerle, he told him, Tanisua, look at our Mishnah. Now see the connection to our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? What did the Mishnah say, the safe and opinion of Rabi Akiva? The end of the Mishnah, we said, V'shnayim harishonim dinar zahov. What was the end of the story? Remember what we said at the end? The last 2 ones, or the first 2 ones actually, remember? At the very end of the story, when Yehuda, the last damagee, got paid, he got 50 from one party, right? Okay, and then 25 from each. True, right? He got, let's say, yeah. So now 25 from each, which is a golden dinar, a golden dinar. Why didn't we continue the next case to say 12.5? If the Mishnah already tells me the whole story, 100, then 50, then 25, then 12.5, why do we go down to 12.5? If you think that Mishnah is language, that the lingo of Mishnah is, that the currency of the Mishnah is a Sela Medina, the lower one, you should have said 12.5. You know why? Let me explain to you. The Mishnah does not listen to the rule and understand everything. The Mishnah does not talk about fractions. The Mishnah had Rachmanos, they have the Tanoim, Akdoshim, they knew in Ruach HaKodesh, Akiva Tachta is going to learn Mishnayos. They want to save me the pain of fractions. Fractions for me is like for you Chinese berech. Yeah. Bekitzer, the Mishnah doesn't talk about fractions. Mimela, we say, if the Mishnah would have spoken about Sela Medina, then 12.5 is not really half, because half in Sela Medina is an entire Sela. Get me? In other words, if you talk in pounds, yeah, how much is a shekel to the pound now? 4? 428. 428. Let's say 4 to make it simple, yeah? So Mimela, if we talk in pounds, we don't talk in less than pounds. Then we don't talk about 3 shkolim. It doesn't exist. It's in England, it's going to be already pennies, right? Mashenken, if I talk in shekels and I teach a child, let's say, about currencies, I'll teach him down to shekel, right? True? In other words, if you talk about the big currency, you don't go down to less to the fraction. But a small currency in the same value is not a fraction; it's a whole unit. Nachon? My example is good. Shekel and pound. 1 shekel in England is a fraction, yeah, but not in Israel. Same thing over here. If you want to tell me that you're talking here about Sela Medina, why don't you talk about 12.5? Because it's not half. Because half in Sela Medina is an entire Sela. Get me? Elamai must be, the Mishnah talks about Sela Hatsuri. He talks about Sela, the Chosh of the Tsuri. Mimele, we don't talk about less than 25, which is the whole amount. Exactly. We don't talk about fractions because by Medin, because by Tsuri, 12.5 is half. We don't talk about halves. All right, so here's your proof. Here's your proof that says what? That really, in the Mishnah, we always talk about the fancy ones. Ooh, oy, oy, oy. He has to give him big currencies. He has to give him Sela times 8, the fancy Sela. He has to give him Sela, which is the big, the tzor one, the golden one. Amarle, he right away, Rav Yosef right away rejected it with a very famous line which appears many times in the Gemara. Omar leitani kiruch laleikni velezil. Is the Mishnah a fisherman, not fisherman? Is the Mishnah a roichel, a merchant in the market, a peddler? The peddler is in the market, they shout, even in Merkaz Mischari sometimes, right? Malawach, and this, yeah, they shout. The Mishnah is not a roichel which has to keep detailing down to the last penny. The Mishnah gave you an example of 1, 2, 3 people, and that's it. The Mishnah is not a roichel. He's not a merchant that has to keep talking. Yeah, or a seminary girl. Yeah, the Mishnah is not talking to no end. The Mishnah gave you 1, 2, 3 examples and finished. The rest you can figure out yourself. So it's not because of the half of the currency being less than whole, we don't want to talk about fractions. Nothing to do with that. It's the fact that the Mishnah doesn't go and talk on and on forever. My Haviyalo. At the end of the day, we're still unclear. We tried to prove from the Mishnah. We rejected the proof. The poor man is standing there, the one who gave the slap. He has to know how much does he have to pay. Yeah, does he have to pay Sela 8 times Sela, or the Sela that you give in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, the 8th fraction of that, an 8th fraction of that, 1/8 of that. So now we want to figure it out. We want to come to the conclusion from the following statement. Listen to this very choshev shas statement. Kol kesef amur b'Torah kesef tzuri. all monies that are mentioned in the Torah, shloshim shel eved, chamesh sloim pidyon haben, 100 that you have to give a girl, or 200, right? Ksuba is machlokes the rest of the Rabbanon, or 50. 100 is a Motzi Shemra, 50 is a Oines Umefate. Whenever the Torah talks about money, the Torah, K'dosha, gold. We want the stuff from Tyre. How do you know that so is expensive? Tyre. In English, so is Tyre, Tyre, right? And in Yiddish, how do you say expensive? Tyre, a Tyre is ach. So that's how you guys can remember that so is expensive 1 times 8, l'malam in the teva. So when the Torah says, so when you want to give the kohen the 5 sloim for your firstborn baby, you give him 8, you give him 5, 5 times 8. V'shel divreim kesef medina. Anything from the rabbinical establishment, anything mentioned in the Mishnah, such as boishes, which is, although boishes is from the Torah, but the amount, the sum, is mentioned in the Mishnah. The Torah doesn't tell you how much boishes is. That's already Chachamim decided. That is really a D'Rabbanan Dikuan. It's only 1/8. It shrunk to 8. So really, the money he owes him is what? Is a dinar. How much is a dinar? A dinar only a dinar, which is 4 zuzim, but small. 8. Yeah, 4 zuzim, which are shrunk into an 1/8 of the big one. Medina is well. Oh no. Now I'm talking. I want to tell you something fascinating, which I finally discovered, Baruch Hashem. Tosfos here points out, and many other Rishonim point out, that the only argument regarding is it Sela Tzuri or Sela Medina, and we came to a conclusion, right? We came to a conclusion. At the Oraisa Dika things, when with either it's a Shloshim Shel Eved or the 5 Shkolim to the Pidyon Haben, is the fancy one, the one that's worth like Tzo, the 8 times one. Now that is only true, says Tosfos, when you talk about sloim, which is the fancy big one, or dinar. But when you talk about mois or prutos, the lesser money is not always, when the Rabbanon, the cheaper one, which means, let's say Rabbanon, what do you just say? The Rabbanon money, let's say Ksuba is the Rabbanon. Ksuba, you pay what? 200 zuz for a basula? That is not necessarily true to say that it's a cheap kesef. Maybe it's kesef tsuri. You have to give her 200 zuz times 8 when you stand out of the chuppah. That's what Tosfos holds. Because when you talk about zuz, the small money, it always stays sometimes, it's not always the same. It's sometimes tsuri, sometimes medina. And ksuba, says Tosfos, is kesef tsuri. And if you go to chasanis and you listen carefully to the ksuba, sometimes they say the word kesef tsuri. I've seen such nuschois. The Rach, I've seen it yesterday in the Shita Mekubetzes, the Rach argues with Tosfos, and maybe the Rashba mentions him also, and he says, no, a ksuba should really be Kesef Natsu, should be Kesef Medina, the cheap one. And then I opened Shulchan Aruch. I opened Hilchos Ksubas quite at the beginning, don't remember where, Kuf something, and it says over the Mechloikis still today, and finally Chap the source. There's a Mechloikis still today, huge Mechloikis, how much should a woman get for a Ksuba? When you say 200 zuz, is it 200 times 8? Or is it just 200? Later on, there was a takana to give a woman much more. That's a much later takana from the late Rishonim, early Achronim, someone that to give the woman more. Yeah, feminism, I guess. But Lamaisa, midin, early din D'Rabbanan, there's a machloikis whether the woman gets 200 big ones, 200 tsuri, or 200 medina. And here's the source. The machloikis Rishonim is right over here. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll stop here and hear your question. Yeah. I've been waiting for your question.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You have,
Thank you. The shear's over. Yeah.
I'm still not clear in terms of